Well, good morning, everyone. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about the new grant-subsidized program called the Startup Business Funding Program, sometimes referred to as the Chapman Loan Program. Today, we have a specific and a special topic on the press release that is going out today. Now, this can mean a couple things. If you're interested in accessing capital to start or grow a business, the content of the press release, the description of the program, I think will be very helpful. So that's number one. Number two, if you're one of our existing distribution partners, we need to be visiting one-on-one afterwards to take this press release, modify it for your branch, your entity, and take it out to your community. And then thirdly and lastly, if you are not a distribution partner, but you would like to be paid to help others improve their financial literacy and access to capital, then again, we need to get together afterwards so we can collaborate. But regardless of that, let's go ahead and go through the press release, which is hot off the presses, as they say. It's literally going out today. And the title as shown here is it's 501c3 nonprofit launches funding program to increase financial literacy and access to capital for small businesses. A little long, but it tells nicely what the press release is about, what we do. And so again, if you're a potential participant, we're going to show you exactly how it works, all the free things that are included through the grant subsidized program. If you're a current distribution partner, this is a great tool to take out to prospective participants as well as hosts like churches, chambers, bankers, accountants, attorneys to generate referral relationships. And thirdly, if you're not yet a referral partner, we can build a campaign around you so you can be out teaching financial literacy and helping people. So released out of Washington, D.C. just today, November 16th, 2023. The grant-subsidized startup business funding program was launched today by a 501c3 nonprofit organization in collaboration with a number of financial partners. I'm going to pause there. We actually have very close to 40 different financial partners who share the vision, who share the mission of helping entrepreneurs access capital that are willing to extend funding to participants. Plus, we have those of you, as I've mentioned before, who are branch offices, and there are hundreds of branch offices across the country that's collaborating with this rollout. So it is just, it's on a very large scale. Continuing on, we're committed to narrowing the wealth gap by improving financial literacy, creating a lender-compliant business structure, and assisting in meeting the underwriting criteria to qualify for a minimum of $250,000 to start or grow a business. So again, a lot of content there, so let's break it down. Let's start with the wealth gap and financial literacy. What I think you would agree is that there are a lot of individuals that don't know what you and I know. They don't know how they can position a business and with absolute certainty access capital. And I'm not talking about a little bit of capital, as we said, at least $250,000. It's a formula. It's a recipe. You know it, I know it, but the truth is most people don't know it. So we need to work together. I believe there's an opportunity. I'll soften it. I believe there's an opportunity that we can work together to go take this message and change people's lives economically by improving their financial literacy and teaching them this process. Secondly, when we talk about a lender-compliant business structure, it comes down to the fact, and again, I'm kind of preaching to the choir, you know this, but when it comes to accessing capital, especially business funding, it doesn't matter how badly you need it or how badly you want it. It's, do you qualify? Is your business credible? Is your business fundable? And so often entrepreneurs, they don't know what you know. They don't know this formula. They have a business that's not ready for funding, and they're frustrated. Sometimes they're desperate because they need capital just to hang on or to grow or to reach their potential. So structure and setup matters in terms of looking credible when we go to the lender. And that's exactly what we're doing. And we'll go through the details, of course, of that. So we'll scroll down here a bit. So the Startup Business Funding Program assists entrepreneurs in reaching their potential through a simple 4 to 8 week process. I'll pause there. Very often you'll be asked, well, how long does this take? I need funding tomorrow. Well, this process is not going to be complete tomorrow. It's going to take 4 to 8 weeks. However, as I think many of you know, we can help any participant get an initial tranche of funding, what we call first tranche, even while they're going through this. So in other words, do the participants need to wait 4 to 8 weeks to start getting funding? No, not at all. We can pursue funding day 1 or day 2. But to complete the process that we're going to be talking about, that really is what the grant-subsidized program does take 4 to 8 weeks. And so it may not be a good fit for everyone because it's not just add water and get instant results. But again, we can get initial funding for those clients that need it while we're going through the process. But the process is to create a fundable business. So this is not a matter of opinion. It frankly doesn't matter what you think or what I think. It specifically has to do with what does it take to have a fundable business. There's a formula, a recipe, and that's what you and I go out and teach and help people with, and that's what this grant is built around. So let's go through what's included, because it's not only bullets of the what. Every one of these bullets has a why. Why is it an important element to have a fundable business? So when you and I are out teaching, whether we're teaching in person or online like today, it's very important that you slow down and help people understand not only the what, but also the why. Because again, a lot of these people, they don't have the skill set, the experience, the education that you have. And so don't make the mistake to think that everyone knows what you know. You know that there's a formula to follow that will work for anyone with absolute certainty, but just slow it down and with a loving heart, explain to people the what and the why. So let's go through it. So first, we provide every participant, for how much? For free, a unique commercial address. I've got a quick story on this, and this is a new story I've not told before, so even if you're on our Zooms normally, and this is 100% true. So first of all, a unique commercial address is important for getting business funding because it's considered credible by the lenders. Using a home address, a post office box, or even a shared virtual address is not considered credible. So we've talked about that before, but here's the story. I was talking to one of our new clients. He enrolled yesterday. And before he came to us, we didn't have anything to do with it. He had received an SBA loan. And he was able to kind of finesse the system. I don't want to say game the system, but kind of finesse the system. And with a home address, he got an SBA loan. Not really a big one, but he got an SBA loan. So he was able to beat the system on this. He didn't have this, but he still got funded. But hear me out. So he was telling me a story that these two men pulled into his driveway at his house. And they were getting out and they had these cameras. And he walked out and he said, guys, what are you doing? This is my house. And they said, we're here to take pictures inside and outside of your house. Well, why do you want to do that? My house isn't for sale. Why are you here? Because you took out a loan and you use this as your commercial address. And we need to have evidence of all of the assets that are in your quote unquote office. So they literally were able to go into his house, go room to room and take pictures because his business address was his home address. So with the loan that he received, the collateral, which we'll talk more about, he literally pledged his blender, his wife's underwear, everything that's in that house is now pledged as collateral for that business loan. That's horrible. We've got to separate business from personal. Now, in most cases, if we don't have a good commercial address, we won't even get approved. But just don't think just because you possibly could game the system and get around that it's all, roses and chocolates, because you can tell this by my sharing of the story with this gentleman. It's horrible when people are essentially able to intrude their way into your home because your home has just become your business. So for free, through the grant, we provide a unique commercial address so the business is credible. Secondly, we pay for the filing with the Secretary of State to create the entity. It's important to have an entity versus just a sole proprietorship or a partnership. Now, as I go through this, keep in mind there are different types of lenders, and different lenders and different loan programs have different underwriting criteria. So there's not just one set of rules. What we're doing here is building a business so it meets most underwriting criteria. We can get most types of funding. All right, so third is free. We help the participant get their EIN and open their business bank account. Then we go ensure that their credit profile of their business, again, we're talking about business funding, business credibility. We want to make sure that their business credit profile, which I guess is their business credit profile, is set up properly with the business credit bureaus like Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business, and so on. So what is that and why is that important? Well, what that means is that the bureaus, which is where lenders will typically go get information from, that the bureaus have accurate and complete profiles of the profile of the business. Everything from industry code, and we talked about address, and just all the elements that are tracked about the business that a lender could check. Because while Dun & Bradstreet, for example, they'll create a profile even if an entrepreneur does nothing, but typically that profile is incomplete and probably inaccurate, and that decreases the probability that the borrower will be able to be approved because there's either incomplete or bad information. So what we're doing here is going in and actually making sure that the profiles with Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business, and so forth are actually complete and optimized. Always honest, we're only going to do things that are legal and ethical, but this is a common barrier that keeps. So all of these are frankly common barriers of why people don't get funding. If they don't have a good address, that could keep them from getting funded. If they're not in good standing with the Secretary of State, that could keep them from getting funded. If they don't have a business account, bank account, that could keep them from getting funded. If they don't look good in the view of their profiles with Dun & Bradstreet and others, that could keep them from getting funded. Next, we provide free assistance in adding primary trade lines. So on the prior bullet, what we said is we want to make sure that the business credit profile is set up correctly. In other words, with the right address, industry code, and so forth, contact information. Now we're actually adding primary trade lines. So why is that important? Because remember, we said why is hugely important to convey to the listener the relevance of what we're discussing. Well, just imagine if a business is trying to go borrow money from a bank or from a lender or some sort of extension of credit, and they've not been able to properly demonstrate that they have been able to access credit and manage the extensions of credit before, then they're not very credible. They're not very fundable. Just like an 18-year-old, right? You have someone turns 18. Do they have bad credit? No, but they don't really have established credit. So do they have the same ability that you or I would have to go buy a house, buy a car, get a credit card, whatever else? No. So what we don't want to fall into the trap of we've got a business set up here with the first three bullets. We're done. Let's go to funding. No, that's inadequate. That's the foundation that we start with, but then we need a good profile, and then we need to add primary trade lines, and we do that for free. So then the next thing that is included in the grant is assistance in creating financial statements. You and I have both probably seen many times that many entrepreneurs, they don't really know what financial statements are. They don't see the importance of them. They don't have them. And so we're going to help make sure that they do have good financial statements that are lender compliant, specifically a balance sheet that shows the assets and liabilities of the business, and also a P&L, or what's called income statement. A lot of small business owners will tell you, well, no, this is a new company. I don't have any of that. I don't need that. It doesn't apply to me. Well, they're kind of showing their financial illiteracy, because you and I could go form a new business today, and tomorrow we should be able to produce credible financial statements, legally and ethically, of course. So that's what we're providing on this bullet. Then we're going to transfer assets, and this one blows people's minds sometimes. Sometimes people just can't get their heads around it, I should say. So we're literally, because of the grant, transferring $10,000, literally transferring $10,000 over to the business. It's real, to the business's balance sheet. So now we have collateral for funding. Because what keeps a lot of businesses from getting funded? They don't have collateral. We're providing that. If they want assistance in liquidating the accounts receivables, that asset transfer, then we can help them. And also we have what's called the Opportunity Fund to put daily deposits into their business bank account. Well, I think we can all understand what that is, but why is that important? Well, that's here in the next line. Again, you and I know the formula. You and I know exactly how we could take any person off of the street, and in 4 to 8 weeks, they can have a fundable business to get $250,000 or more. But again, most people don't know what you and I know. One element of being fundable is the business's bank rating. And so, of course, you and I have our eye on that ball for the clients, and we want to make sure that they have a strong business bank rating. And then, so essentially, once we have done this, we have a credible business. We have a fundable business. Now we're ready to go to funding. There are many types of funding, but one unique type is the Chapman Fund. The Chapman Fund comes from a taxing authority, so we don't have to go to a bank or a credit union to apply. They'll provide up to $250,000 to start or grow a new business. But don't misunderstand, there's many other types of funding sources, including SBA and non-SBA funding. So once we have this, we're ready to go to funding. There are many different types and sources of funding. One unique type that we make available is the Chapman Fund. Sometimes people will approach us and they think it's only about getting the Chapman Fund. No, we could use the Chapman Fund for the first $250,000 and then pivot on to another source for a much larger capital raise if needed. So those are the primary bullets. Let's continue with the press release. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can type it into the Q&A box. It's kind of like a chat box at Zoom. So we leverage award-winning curriculum that was developed by the FDIC and promoted by the United States Small Business Administration, where I used to work, SBA. Participants have access to practical education topics, and they're assigned one of our financial literacy educators who will then assist them in implementing what was learned. So we are actively looking for more financial literacy educators. If you might be interested in collaborating, helping us teach, and getting paid for it, of course, please let us know. You can submit an inquiry on the chapmanloanprogram.org website. This practical and proven approach was developed with input from SBA, SBDC advisors, SCORE mentors, top business college professors, and business bankers to properly prepare pre-launch and early-stage entrepreneurs for a successful capital raise. So I think you would agree, and we're not done yet, we'll come back and finish, but this tells the story very effectively, I think much better than a flyer would. Press releases tend to be well received by readers. So if you are one of our distribution partners or you're considering it, we need to take this press release, modify for your use, and then use this to go create relationships to set up workshops and to create referrals. We can do workshops at libraries and chambers and co-working spaces, business organizations. I've gone out to banks, and then also you can use this as a great talking point to generate referrals. All right, so again, Clarissa is asking about becoming a referral partner or distribution partner. Yeah, just go to chapmanloanprogram.org, Clarissa. You'll see resources, and there's a link. I think it's the bottom link to click to become a distribution partner. All right, so let's finish up the press release. And so this paragraph here could be changed based upon your branding, because a lot of you that are set up, we call you branch offices. Those of you that have branch offices, in many cases, you're going out under your branding. What we're considering doing is keeping that, of course, not changing that because it's working well for a number of you, but also those of you that might want to run a nonprofit office working with you to set up nonprofit offices across the country. But that digresses. So Business Credit Literacy Initiative is BCLI is a 501c3 nonprofit. We formed this back in 2016. So, I mean, it's not brand new, but it's not 100 years old. So we're what, 7 years old. And the way that this came about is myself and some others who were educators. In other words, we taught high school, quite frankly. We realized that these crucial financial literacy principles that we were teaching to our students, that their parents didn't know, their aunts and uncles didn't know, their grandparents didn't know. So in other words, adults in the community, entrepreneurs, didn't know what we were teaching these 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. We taught financial literacy and economics and accounting 1 and 2, business information management and such. So that's how this came about. A lot of times people want to know the backstory. Well, there's the backstory. Here we are teaching young adults what they need to know about business. And we quickly realized, oh my goodness, what we're teaching is so valuable. The adults need to hear it too. So we didn't go form a new school for adults. That would be kind of unusual. So instead, we formed the nonprofit back in 2016. Now, more recently, we were exclusively selected to administer the Startup Business Funding Program. And that goes to what John's question is. So if you go to chapmanloanprogram.org, John, you will find information. There's a training video about the Startup Business Funding Program, but also a 2-step process. And step 2 actually allows you to engage, to enroll, to participate. The innovative model provides a literal formula for funding. We've talked about that a couple times. I think you may be taking it for granted, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but what you know is incredibly valuable. There are a lot of people that have a problem that you have the solution for. They need money. You know exactly how to get anyone a minimum of $250,000. It's not mystery, it's not smoke and mirrors, it's following this process. So just because you know it, John and Clarissa and Gino and Angela and Andre and Aaron and Anthony and Bernard and all of you that are on, we have 433 of you on. You all may know this, but the average person doesn't. And that's why there's a need. There's a need to teach and then help these participants implement this so they could be successful the way that you are. All right, so we said it provides a formula for funding so we can quickly and easily establish a fundable business. As I mentioned, for increased community outreach, we're establishing a national network of financial literacy educators. Again, if you're interested in that, go to chapmanloanprogram.org under resources. The bottom link says become a distribution partner. Fill that out. We'll plug you in. We'll collaborate. And so as a financial literacy educator, sometimes called branch office, what you'll do is you'll facilitate teaching this curriculum. We have a curriculum called the 10 Mistakes that keep businesses from getting funding. And you can teach that in person or online. You don't have to worry about getting butts in the seats. We work with hosts, again, like churches and chambers and business organizations that kind of sponsor the workshop. they promote it, you go in and you teach it. And if you don't want to teach it, we can have other people teach it for you. But the bottom line is, this is how we educate individuals about what it takes to qualify for funding. And then this also provides a conduit for them to enroll if they would like to. And on average, 85 to 80% of the people that attend a workshop will enroll in the Startup Business Funding Program. It's not get rich quick, so don't think that. But if you became one of our financial literacy educators, you're paid $1,250 for each person that you teach. You can teach people individually or teach them in groups. So obviously it's a good side income. It's probably not going to replace what you're doing now. All right, so let me make that a bit smaller if I can find the screen, and let's see. Ken says press release is great news. It explains what, how, why. Yep, I agree, and this is very helpful. So those of you that are looking for capital, this explains what we do, and hopefully now you'll go ahead and go over and plug in. For those of you that are current distribution partners like Ken, you can use this. We'll get you an editable version you can use to promote in your community. And of course, those of you that are considering helping others and getting paid, this again tells the story. All right, so I think we covered, there's quite a few questions, but most of which I think we've covered now. Any other questions, comments, concerns? So again, we do these daily Zooms most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central. You can access the registration on Chapman Loan Program. So the chapmanloanprogram.org website has the 10 mistake on demand video, so you can watch that. So it goes into more detail about why businesses often don't get funded and how the grant can help. You'll have a link to be able to get initial tranche of funding. You'll have a link to see funding success stories. You'll have a link to become a distribution partner. And of course, all of our contact information. All right. Well, I think that we have covered pretty much everything. I appreciate your time and hope that you'll engage. I mean, we can put together these workshops, we can go apply for grants, we can receive grants, we can offer just a tremendous value proposition, but unless you engage, there is no benefit to you. So this is about getting you to engage either as a participant, which you're welcome to do so, or maybe you would be interested in helping us teach others and earning extra income. But regardless, Chapman Loan Program has all of our contact us information, and we'll be back tomorrow morning for the next Zoom. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.